Welcome to the Utu na Mzalendo podcast. My name is Mwalimu Wakibia, the founder of Mzalendo Halisi Foundation. At Mzalendo Halisi Foundation, we amplify ordinary Kenyans doing extraordinary things. On this episode, we feature the story of an amazing activist, James Wakibia, the guy who led to the banning of plastic in this country. Karibuni. Good morning, James.
Yeah, good morning.
Karibu sana to the Utu na Uzalendo podcast. The Utu na Uzalendo podcast is a podcast that tells the stories, highlights, and amplifies Kenyans who go out of the normal, to serve other Kenyans. Sometimes bila mshahara, wamejituma. Wengine wanaitwa activists, wanaharakati. And most of their stories are not told, especially from a personal level, who they are, why they do what they do, what inspires them, and the kind of both challenges and triumphs that they experience. So it's an easy conversation around who James is and why you do what you do. So that Kenyans can know you. So I'll ask you, who is James Wakibia? Ulizaliwa wapi? Where were you born? Where did you go to school? How's that life?
Oh, thank you very much, Motemi, for this conversation. My name is James Wakibia. I am an environmental activist. Kwa Kiswahili mimi ni mwanaharakati wa mazingira. I was born in Rongai, in Nakuru County. There is another Rongai in Nairobi, but I was born in one in Nakuru County, in a small village called Matueku. Matueku in English means a broken place, maybe because of soil erosion and stuff like that, but not broken dreams, of course. You can see
you're living your dream.
Maybe. So I am a father of two, and having been brought up in Nakuru, living in a very clean environment, the village life, you are sent by your parents to look after their cattle or our cattle in a very green place. You just sleep under a tree, never seeing pollution. So even the thought that one day I would become an activist, maybe it would never have occurred.
That's what in the outskirts of Nakuru.
Yeah, that was outskirts of Nakuru, like about 30 kilometers from Nakuru town, somewhere near Salga. Salga Trading Center is known a lot because of accidents, but now we have less accidents, of course. But there are other good things coming from Salga or near my home areas, that is clean, the greenery, the environment is nice. I wouldn't say that so much of Salga Trading Center itself, because it's becoming urbanized and people are polluting. But my village is quite green and beautiful. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
So you went to Matueku Primary School, or
Yeah, so I went to Matueku Primary School up to standard 6. Then I was transferred to a boarding school in Elbagon. Then it was a very forested area, and the main activity in Elbagon was timber. So there were lots of sawmills. So I was taken to that boarding school, which I thought was more of like an approved school or a jail to me. It was actually it was not approved school, but the beating we went through, even for small mistakes. If you got mathematics below 70%, you get thrashing. If you do good, you get thrashing. So it really affected me a lot. And I always feel, even today, I have that trauma. I always wonder why they took me to a boarding school. I think they thought it was nice being taken to a boarding school. Anyway, I went through that, then went to Jomo Kenyatta High School in Nakuru, studied there until I think 2003. Immediately after, I never thought of going to college. So I came to Nairobi to hustle. And I think that is when I started becoming an activist. Not real activist, but subconsciously I became an activist because of the noise and the madness in the streets and the pollution. I went to live in a place in Bakassi called Pipeline. And I was, I think, third floor. And looking down, there were loads of garbage. People would just throw things over. And the place was a mess. The roads looked like a dam with a lot of mud and plastic and diapers and everything. And I wondered, how do people live in such a mess? What's wrong with these people? So I think I started getting tired with Nairobi those early years.
Shamba ya mawe.
Shamba ya mawe. Because I was actually working at Tusky supermarket. Then it used to be called Tusker Mattresses supermarket in Mombasa Road. Then I was brought to town, Tusky's, Imara. I worked there. And then I decided enough was enough.
What are you doing at Tusky's?
Tusky's normal shop attendant, serving people, filling, arranging things on the shelves, selling groceries. I was at the vegetable department, so I know quite a bit about fruits and vegetables.
You had to go to the green section.
I had to go to the greens, but it was very cold. I suffered pneumonia.
Wow.
And I think that was one of the reasons that I resigned. It was very cold. The working conditions for that supermarket were hellish. You would wake up at like 5 to beat the traffic. You were at the shop by, 7:30. You work, donkey work up to about like 9:30 p.m. at night.
Yeah, at night.
You've not seen the sunlight of the day. So you woke up in the dark. You've been in the supermarket the whole day. Then you're going home at night. I had moved from Pipeline to Huruma. And I would arrive maybe at around like 10:30. Very tired. That was bad life. And I really hated it. So I resigned.
Were you married at that time?
No, I was actually very young. So I was married.
Just immediately after high school?
Yeah, immediately after high school. Then after hustling and resigning, I went back to Nakuru. Before that, I did a small stint in Nakuru here. I worked at a company that makes feedstocks. And then I went to Nanyuki, worked at a restaurant called Trout Tree. They are known for making good fish, trout fish. I worked there for, I think, 3 months. I got tired of being under manager. I don't know. I don't like being.
Don't like employment.
Yeah. After 3 months, I resigned. Came back to Nairobi. I got another job in the stock market. There's an agency that was working with the stock market, NSC. Worked there for like a year. It was bad because of the global credit crunch and all that. 2008 violence.
2008, yeah.
Yeah. 2010, I went back to Nakuru and decided to go back to the university to study media.
So you went back to school in 20?
Yeah,
2010.
I went back to the university in 2011. Yeah, until 2015. When I graduated.
Because we met in 2013, 2014, when you were, I think, a student at the university.
Oh, yeah. I remember we met at a hotel in Nakuru. There was something called Maskani Nakuru.
Maskani Nakuru, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, we've been on this journey for a while, and Maskani was about basically building a movement of change makers. Bringing together people who is actually the same thing. Kenyans' inability to have conversations around the issues that concern us.
I think that was nice. Even I met activists like you. I met others, Kimani, and a whole group of really rough activists.
And the ones for Nakuru also.
Street activists.
Yeah. And the Shiko Kehekas and others.
Keheka. Quite strong people that also inspired me in many ways.
Let's go back to primary school. Because and I'm going back there because two guests who have also sat on that seat have spoken about very traumatizing experiences with primary school, and some secondary school. What would you say about that and what it does to you as a child in terms of self-esteem, the trauma? Please talk about the trauma that a bit.
I don't know, maybe it changed me in a way because I was quite reserved. So I think it helped me open up because, arriving at that school, the first week I already had no uniform. I was wearing old uniform. If you ask me why I got old uniform, your guess would be right as because the first time you arrive there, all your clothes are stolen. So you also have to go and pick others on the
from the
line. All your mattresses are stolen, your box is broken, so you become rough. I remember meeting or being shown how to open a padlock using a small wire by sons of a very rich person in Elbagon. That means we were really suffering, and you had to know things. And if you knew how to open a padlock, then life would be easier because you'll be helping yourself. But it was not a very good experience. And that even today I remember about what I went through, the beatings. I even remember the teachers and their faces. Because sometimes you wonder, why do I have to be beaten even when I have done nothing wrong? The teacher sees you walking, calls you, what are you doing? You should be in class. You try to explain, I'm going to the library to pick. No, sleep here. 2 whips.
So it's that thing of you discipline people by beating them thoroughly.
Yeah. Whips, like the kuna ile mshipi ya kisiagi. That rubber thing. Ile nimeona hivi.
The one for turning wheels.
Yeah. That one. Tulikuwa tunachapa na hiyo sana.
And was there bullying from the other children?
Kids, there was a lot of bullying kwa sababu sasa if you've gotten to the school, the first week you already do not have your new uniform. It's gone.
Yeah.
That means it's bullying.
And did you report to the school authorities that your uniform has been stolen?
I don't think I had that courage to even report because
every time you
need a lot of guts to also go to report something. Because you're in a boarding setup, how are you going to report? You'll end up in the same dormitory with the people you want to report. So you suffer pole hapo. You also become hard and live that life.
That is the key word I was actually looking there, is that you suffer pole because I think we find ourselves as Kenyans in the same kind of situation. Where you suffer, you're on your own, you suffer pole.
And I think even education system has not been an education system to help people to grow their talents and to be better, but it's a system to instill fear, to make people toe the line. Children are born very creative. We are artists, cooks, you can do things even before we go to school. But the moment you get to school, standard 1, standard 2, the school begins changing you, making you somebody different. You forget about art, you forget about everything. You are told now if you want to become a doctor, a pilot, they tell you those things. Things that are out of your mind. If you ask a small child what they want to be, they just relate with what they can, like art, making things. But school changes all that. I think we need to have an education system that really brings children up with who they are or what they appreciate, their talents, stuff like that. Not forcing people into Western world, into what the teacher would want you to be, because I think that is what has been happening.
So our education system does not nurture people's gifts, or give time people to identify what they are gifted at or what they are interested in, and then nurture that.
I think it does not, as from my experience. It did not. I went to school, I learned so many things, GHC, home science, a lot of nonsense, I would say, that never
Never applied in life.
If that activism was seen at that early age, maybe that is what should have been brought up. I would have been a better activist, maybe. Or maybe because I went through all that torture, that's why I became an activist. Yeah.
Okay, so back to university. How was that experience?
University was quite interesting because I decided to go back to university after almost 10 years hustling in Nairobi. You know, working in the supermarket, trying things. And when I saw that Nairobi was too tough on me, I went back to Nakuru, then went back to the university. And I think it is the university.
Had you been admitted there initially, or this was you applied to be admitted?
I applied new. I just decided that, I was doing photography. When I came to Nairobi, I met, somehow I heard about Boniface Mwangi. And one time I was taking pictures, just as somebody who was passionate about pictures. At Harambee Avenue, there was a small protest of internally displaced people. And I had a tap on the back, and somebody introduced himself as Boniface Mwangi, and looked at him. I had heard about him, and he told me, "You do a good job," because I think I was trying to get a shot of a policeman holding a gun, and trying to compose that frame, a gun and the protesters in front of him. Maybe that is what he appreciated. If you find time, you can come by my studio at Kanye Africa House. He had a studio there. So
that was way before Power 254.
Yeah, that is way before Power 254. That was 2008 or 9. Just after the post-election violence. Yeah. So I was going to the university because I wanted to know more about photography. I was not interested with journalism at all, but I was very passionate about photography. Boniface had helped me with books on photography. I had personally done a lot of research and personal education on photography. But I wanted, maybe a degree or something. And there is no school in Kenya that teaches photography. I think it's done outside the country, like fine art.
It's always seen as something people do and they don't have jobs.
Doesn't, photographers are looked down upon. Photographer, do a bigger picture. So I decided to go back.
But that was then. Nowadays, nowadays
it's a serious
profession.
Serious stuff. Very, very serious.
And I think you and Boniface have played a big role in mainstreaming.
Yeah, photography is serious. It bought me a car. So.
Pays your bills.
Pays my bills. So I went back to the university.
Got you on time, magazine.
Not
yet. We'll talk about that. Yeah.
So at the university, I went there because of photography. But I had to do media because photography was just a unit. And that's what I did. And I think the whole experience with Egerton was not bad. I was taken there. I went there because of passion. So I took myself. And therefore, I knew what I wanted. But
you having hustled for 10 years, you definitely are much more mature than most of the people you are in class.
Hustling for 10 years will teach you one thing or two. Because you now begin to be responsible to know really what you want. Yeah.
Were you married by then?
No. I think I took my time. I got married, I think, when I was 35 or 36. Just recently, 2015. Yeah.
That is when you're already now an activist. An environmental activist.
I became an activist while still in university, in college. Because that's when I noticed a lot of garbage from ghetto dumping site in Nakuru was spilling over into the road that I was using. And I was really annoyed by that. That there was so much garbage entering the road and nobody was doing anything. At one time, when I was taking my photos of the garbage, I was patched up on top of a hill somewhere. So taking pictures of the road down there with motorists passing on top of that garbage. And after taking some pictures in the evening, I noticed I had taken photos of the former president, the late president, the dictator President Moi, had passing over that garbage. And I wondered, this guy was very powerful.
When he was retired, yeah?
Yeah, he's still powerful and influential. Why wouldn't he make just a phone call and ask the government of Nakuru to deal with that garbage? So that really did annoy me, and I thought maybe I could try raise my voice, and something could change. I actually did write a letter of invitation to the former president Moi to come to my protest, and I sent it via Wells Fargo. That was crazy.
To Kabarak, to his Kabarak
Yeah,
home.
to Kabarak. Of course, it never got a response.
So you're in Egerton, very serene surroundings.
Yeah.
You come from a village, also very serene.
Not actually very serene. Egerton, I did it at Egerton town campus. So
in
there
the
was
town
the noise pollution and what have you, but my village remains clean. So
At what point did you decide to go to Twitter? Because I think our first encounter with you was your tweets around the garbage and plastics in Nakuru.
I don't know. I think I found myself on social media. First of all, we are all on social media. Maybe sharing a bit about ourselves or where we're going. And then when I took these pictures, I found myself sharing them on Twitter and Facebook. And then I started using a hashtag. Those early years in 2013, around 2012. But that hashtag was mainly on Facebook because that's where I had a petition calling for the relocation of that dumping site. So I think it's during that time that I started using social media a lot. And I noticed its power because I was able to tag the Minister for Environment. The normal bureaucracy with social media is not there. You're able to direct the message to the person that you want. So it was easy. I also observed there was a lot of activity on social media that was very, very powerful, like the Arab uprising that led dictators out of power.
The Jasmine Revolution.
Yeah, so I noticed social media was quite a powerful platform to bring change, and I embraced it so much. I almost became an addict. Somebody else told me I'm an addict. I flipped from Twitter, now X, Instagram, now there's Thread, there's Blue, there is,
Do you still have a presence in all of them?
Yeah, I have presence in all of them because I feel I know how powerful they are. If there is one coming up, I'll try to get in and try to, to share my opinion about something, mostly about plastic pollution and environment. Yeah. So I'm in about like how many? Like 6 main ones. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Thread by Facebook, of course. There's a new one called Blue. There's TikTok.
I haven't heard about Blue. What does Blue do? What is
Blue is like more like Twitter, but it has a bit of getting in there, and you need somebody to. It's like a referee or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it works by referral.
Yeah, works by referral. But it's nice, still growing, and I think it might be better soon than Twitter because Elon Musk came to destroy Twitter. Or maybe he wants to sell it.
Yeah, maybe. But how do you destroy something then want to sell it,
Yeah, but changing.
I think it was an ego trip for him.
I don't know. We all loved Twitter. Now we are confused. Even I was trying to find Twitter on my phone. I had a challenge every time, like, well,
because it changed to X.
No, made a bit of an issue.
I don't know whether he has a fascination with X because his kids, I think he has a kid called X. Then
it's his company, I think so.
His company for going to space is called SpaceX. Then he has called Twitter X. Who knows? But the thing about Twitter is that around the time we encountered each other, I think 2013, 2014, I also had a platform called Wanjiku Revolution, and my platform was for amplifying almost the same thing you're doing with this podcast, amplifying Kenyan voices that are not in the mainstream, basically, and based on certain values, of course, people value of service. Right now, a lot of Kenyans are complaining about the leadership that we have, the political leadership that we have.
Yeah.
But not generally not just the political leadership, even religious leadership, NGO leadership. We seem to have a crisis of leadership. And what we set out to do with Wanji Convolution was amplify, show that there are other forms of, the other voices, you know, the way our politics tries to box us into two corners, whether you're sometimes called or NASA or Jubilee or KK now, and you know, what is it called? Azimio. Like there are no other voices in between. And through Twitter with Maskani, we were able to bring in other voices. That's how we found you and others. Because you're sharing, I think, very relentlessly on the pollution that you're finding in Nakuru. You took pictures, shared on Twitter. And our idea was to bring a lot of these voices together so that you can have a much more powerful conversation. And so we came across you. And I think through the team that you were working with at Maskani, that's when you started this, I don't know whether you started the hashtag Ban Plastic KE. I support Ban Plastic KE, or did you?
It started as Ban Plastics KE. Then later on changed to I support Ban Plastic. Yeah.
Did you work with the Kimani and others towards that? Or?
Yeah, we did work. Sometimes we met for Uji, what we call them. We were meeting over Uji, cups of Uji. Then we had like a small discussion
in Nakuru
over table. Yeah, in Nakuru. And sometimes we'd even have tea and mandazi and talk about current issues. And then I would also, you know, throw in about my campaign on ban plastics. Yeah.
And tell us about that campaign, because what most Kenyans don't know is that you are the man largely, I think 90% or 95% responsible for the Kenyan plastic ban. But what is the story?
Interestingly, I always, of course, I always I did try to look at who else was mentioning a lot about plastic. And interestingly, I couldn't find anybody else. And also I was asking myself some of these questions that other people ask me. Why plastic? You know? And it's quite interesting that I just sat and decided to focus on plastic and not even solid waste. I think the reason that I started this campaign, which was not campaign initially, it was just me sharing my frustrations, was because I saw a garbage site or a dumping ground that was spilling its trash over into the road.
That's the one you're talking about.
That Gyoto dumping site. And I started complaining because of the eyesore. The filth was too much. The stench. You passed that road, you know, and you said nothing about it. Maybe you had a problem because really the stench was there every day. It's like passing near Dandora and you not even, you know, say, you know, you don't even express the smell. The smell. So I found people like trained not even to say anything. And I decided I was going to talk about it. And then we did a small, with the students, my classmates from Egerton University, we did a small protest from the dumping site all the way to town to petition the county government of Nakuru to close down that dumping site.
How many were you?
Like 30 people.
Okay.
Yeah, they had delayed to come and I thought I'm going to do this alone now. But they came, fortunately.
You were ready to do it alone?
I was, I was thinking other ways and I thought, Umtata had done something like a chain. I'm going to buy a chain and chain myself the gate somehow. But they came, they made it easier. So we walked all the way from Gyoto dumping site, like 2 kilometers, to the Nakuru County headquarters offices. We chanted, we protested, you know, we sang, and then gave out our petition.
You weren't tear gassed?
No, they were preparing to do that, but I had notified the police and I had the letter from all the
statement stamp.
Yeah. So when I saw them attempting to do that, I shoved one in front of an officer, and then he cooled down. We made our demands. They received to formally accept our petition. But since we were at the residence, headquarters of Nakuru County Government, we just dropped the over 300 pages of petitions with signatures inside their compound.
300 pages?
Yeah, there were many pages, lots of papers, because there were so many signatures. We threw them inside there, and we said, well, you will read them if you want.
Would you take us through the collection of signatures?
The collection of signatures started around in 2011, mostly supported by university students. So I would give sheets of papers to my colleagues. They would go around. When they fill the signatures, they would bring it to me. That's how I was doing it. I think I did I can't remember, there should be over 10,000 signatures. And each form had like 20 signatures. So there were very many papers.
And what was the petition? What was the call?
The call was to relocate Gyoto dumping site because it was an environmental menace and because it was a condemned dumping site. Essentially, it was supposed to be closed down, but it was not closed down. And of course, because garbage was spilling. My issue was that the garbage was coming over to the road.
And nobody was bothered.
And I think it did work after the protest because the Minister for Environment then, his name was Rob.
Oh, Rob.
Nakuru County Government. Told me that they were trying to do with what they had. They did not have an alternative land to establish another landfill. So they were going to improve what they had, that dumping site. And they actually did that. All the garbage on the road was removed. It was cleared. There were new restrictions on the dumping site and the people who were dumping waste there, the companies. And it did improve. And true to his word, I think that was much better. But I noticed the problem of plastic or of garbage getting into the road continued because plastic would not just sit in the dumping site. Because plastic bags especially are light or flimsy. So when it is very windy, they will be blown by winds into the air. They will get out of the landfill. When it rained a lot, they will be carried by the runoff into the stormwater drains and into the road again or into the rivers. So it was a normal occurrence with plastic. So I decided to focus on plastic because of the nature of how they are made, being very light. Yeah.
So when you say he called you, he got your number or it was on the petition?
He never called me. I think I found myself in his office.
Okay.
I don't know, either I had made an appointment, but I found myself in his office and we had that conversation. Yeah.
Because the reason I'm asking that is just tracing, your push, and to illustrate that it's possible for one person to mobilize, to organize, mobilize the community to some tangible action that can lead to, to tangible change.
In fact, most change come from individuals. It is individuals who get tired, who get frustrated and annoyed that they begin demanding for action. Then they are joined by other people. There was people like Martin Luther King. There were people like Wangari Maathai, Boniface Mwangi, Mutemi. So many. They were individuals before they were joined by other groups. So there is a lot of power in an individual. And most people don't realize, like, today we are on social media. If you have like 100 followers, you are a whole newspaper, and the good thing with this newspaper is that it has no gatekeeper. It has no editor. You are the reporter, and then you are the sub-editor, and then you are the editor, and then you are the publisher. So we can do a lot. We can even decide to some people I hear making noise in the in the public domain, like Moses Kuria, insulting Kenyans. Kenyans can decide enough is enough, and he wouldn't be in the office next day. We just need to realize the power that we have, as individuals, and of course supported by social media.
And that's very true. Have you faced any pushback, especially on social media? Have people asked you like, umetumwa na nani, mbona, why are you doing
Yeah.
this?
I had a crazy one. In 2013, that's when there was an election, yeah? In 2013, before the election, President Uhuru Kenyatta, former president, came to Nakuru, I think to campaign, or he had something in this main avenue, Kenyatta Avenue, in Nakuru town. And they had done a placard written, "Mr. President, stop corruption." We were to go there with a colleague. I think he was late or something. And I decided this is the opportunity. And I actually did go. Just in front of the president. There was a lot of big crowd. I got inside the crowd. I got just near the president, like 5 meters or 6. And then I put up my placard in the air. "Mr. President, stop corruption." I saw the police struggling to come to where I was because it was very packed. When they came, they pressed my head downwards so that I wouldn't be seen. Then they escorted me to a police car nearby that was surrounded by general service officers. And then the officer who was arrested me, he had a gun placed in, a pistol placed on my stomach. He asked me, "Who the hell do you think you are?" I was just smiling. Then he told me, "You think out of all these people, you are different?" I told him, "Yeah, I'm different. I'm the only one who put up that placard with Mr.
You're the
President."
one who's speaking
And I asked
to
him,
power.
"Don't you think this is the right message? This is a good message. I'm trying to tell the president to fight corruption. What is wrong with this?" Then he asked me, "Umetumwa na Raila?"
And that is the thing. That's we are boxed into either or.
That's the first time.
That you cannot have your own agency.
Yeah, that's the first time somebody asked me, "Umetumwa na Raila?" And I was like, being associated with Raila Odinga, never thought about it. So they continued asking me questions. Then, because there was a lot of activity, I think one officer was called, so he jumped out of the car, was left with one. Then that one was also, he got a bit comfortable because the governor, governor during that time, his name was Kinodhi Mbugua, was booed by the people there. So there was a lot of laughing and booing, and I laughed. The officer chilled a bit. The gun, he placed it in his whatever, and he jumped out of the car also. Within a split of a second, I was out of that car.
And you ran for your life.
I actually told the GSU officers who were surrounding that car, "Excuse me, sir." And he actually excused me, and I jumped. Never knew what was going on. Yeah. So that is one of the pushback I have gone through. In 2017, I think so, or around 2017. There's something I tweeted about matatu stages. I think I said that the governor had commissioned another illegal matatu stage. And when I was tweeting it, or when I tweeted, I told the cyber cafe guy, I've made a tweet that can be a bit not so comfortable with some people. I don't know how it will go. And after 1 hour, somebody had hacked in. I had 2 Twitter accounts. Somebody had hacked into one of my Twitter accounts. It's called Street Nakuru. Written a message on my other Twitter account, James Wakibia, and said, I think he said, "What did you say about us? Now you are too much into us. Han," something like that. "Please, we know you love your wife and son, but now you're too much."
It was a threat.
That was a threat. And I was scared as hell. Anywhere I went in the streets, I just saw criminals.
Wow.
When I went home, I imagined they knew where I was staying. So I was a bit afraid.
And of course, the message was that they knew you had a wife, you had kids.
Yeah, somebody writing to you that we know you have, we know you love your wife and child, and you actually said boy, your wife and boy. You are too much into us now,
Umetuingilia sana.
Yeah, but I was really afraid. And I also remember that morning, I had also tweeted, the Bar had a show on NTV. And he was discussing, I think, genetic modified organism, GMOs, and they had tweeted about local scientists being bribed, maybe corrupted by multinational organizations to support GMOs. So I was not able to pinpoint, but I know the scientists wouldn't have, because it would have been a bit of a time to research and know where I stay. But I thought maybe it was somebody close to me, or somebody who knew me very well.
And which then that points to Nakuru.
Yeah, I think it was somebody in Nakuru County government.
At that time, the governor was Lee Kenyanjui.
Yeah, that time the governor was Lee Kenyanjui, and I had actually tweeted about an illegal matatu stage in the center of Nakuru town, because I had written, the governor has commissioned yet another illegal matatu stage, or something like that. And the response, or the Twitter accounts were hacked almost like immediately, because I received the message more like an hour after tweeting. Yeah. So that means you can always tell who your enemies are.
That can be scary. That can be scary. The efficiency of it. Actually hacking into both your Twitter accounts.
You actually just need to hack into one.
Yeah.
Then you must be very wise to know how to cover your tracks. That would be like, I'm going to hack, then use it to send message
to the other one. That shows the level of sophistication some of our leaders in government have. So let's step back to you're doing the advocacy in Egerton, or you're in Egerton. You're doing the advocacy in Nakuru. I remember you've had the county government respond to the call to do something about the dumping sites. I remember you also did a petition to the county assembly that they were going to do a law, change the law, the environmental law. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So beside the petition that we presented to the county government of Nakuru, we also did a petition to the assembly with certain prayers to ban single-use plastic bags below 100 microns. And we presented that petition, and it was tabled. I think that was in 2016. It was tabled. We were called for, I think they're called discussions, because it was under the Legal and Justice Committee. We went to the ground, we went to the dumping site to look at plastic and how it was polluting the environment. But fortunately, the Minister for Environment, now banned plastic bags the following year. That was 2017. In February, that's when she announced the ban.
And was there a connection between that, your activism, and Judy Wakungu banning plastic?
Because I can relate. Maybe I should go back a bit and tell you about both the campaigns. And in around 2013, I began tweeting with a hashtag ban plastics KE, with a very well designed hashtags, like pieces of art. But of course, there were words written.
You used to get hashtags. Us to pose with the hashtag.
Yeah. Before that was when I support ban plastics came. But hashtag ban plastics KE was just on Twitter and Facebook. And I would just have the hashtags with pictures of pollution. Maybe I've gone to Nakuru dumping site. Maybe I've seen a drain that has plastics. I would add that hashtag. And one day, the ban plastics was a trending topic on Twitter. And that meant a lot, And I think it is then that the Minister for Environment, who was just recently, I think she was the ambassador to
Judua Hungu.
Yes, to France and some other European countries, tweeted back with my, I think, responding to my hashtag, and she said she supported a ban on plastic bags in Kenya. Now I changed the hashtag from ban plastics KE to I support ban plastics K because it was inspired by the Minister for Environment. She said she supported ban on plastic bags in Kenya. And I continued campaigning using I support ban plastics KE as a hashtag and as a campaign message. So we would go into the streets of Nakuru and have people hold that placard. If they agreed with us or with me that plastic was a problem, plastic was a menace, and we needed a government response to address or to ban plastic bags. So people would accept, take a picture as a sign, or like it's just like signing a petition, but in this case, it was just taking a photo, and then I would share those photos on Twitter. I think you may have had a picture yourself.
Yeah.
I think you were also working on Tagithongo sometime.
You also got a picture
had
with Githongo.
Yeah, and many other people. Actually, these pictures were taken as far away as in Costa Rica, at the university, and even in Cambodia. Ban plastics KIE, I support ban plastic KIE. Yeah.
That was because at the time Maskani was now amplifying your work.
Yeah.
By that time you had a relationship with Maskani Nakuru. We had got a new support structure, other activists in Nakuru.
Yeah, I remember you used to come to Nakuru. We would meet over that and discuss about not just plastic pollution, but which meant a lot to me, but also other important national events or issues that were happening in the country. Yeah.
So having come from Nakuru, which also around that time, I mean, you talked about PEV, talked about being Owen Mtu Raila and the tensions that I think still persists in the Central Rift. How was it for you being in Egerton, being from Saga, I think where Kikuyus and Kalenjins live? How was that experience for you?
First of all, I'll tell you back when the post-election violence came, I was at home in the village. And we were affected directly because I remember we slept outside, trying to protect ourselves from attacks. Because remember, my neighbor's house was torched. My two neighbors' houses were torched. And I remember one of those days we were somewhere with a group of young people, keeping guard of our community. And it was like midnight. So we were just talking and chatting. Then I fell asleep, and I fell asleep on a fence with a barbed wire. Then the rest of the guys went.
Wow, and left you there?
Yeah, and I had a panga. When I woke up, I was freezing and the panga was wet with cold. I was shivering. I just said, I'm going to sleep. I don't care whether they want to come kill me. They better come kill me at home in the bed.
Yeah.
So it really did affect me a lot. And I was also flying between Nairobi and home because I remember I was also working here. So coming to Nairobi and passing through Mathare, there was like Kisumu Ndogo, and then there is Huruma. Then after Huruma, there is John Saga, which was, I don't know, they call it Nyeri or something. So there was a lot of violence between like Mlango Kubwa and Huruma. Well, every time I would pass there were cars burning and stuff. So I saw a lot, And of course, I had some people close to me who had been affected directly. I had a friend from the village who was shot by an arrow in the neck. So post-election violence did affect me in a way.
But before that, you guys used to live normally as neighbors, different communities?
No. We never lived so normally because you remember even in 1992, there was post-election violence. And most people, went away, came to town just to run away from the violence. And then again in 1997, there was some sense of, skirmishes again. So we lived in fear, that our communities tried, mostly like Kikuyus and the Kalenjins. But I appreciate now that people, I think, have gotten more closer And
So
these
people have
things may
become
never
closer.
be repeated again.
People
Yeah.
have become closer.
People, I think, have become closer, and of course, I think they have seen the nonsense of being used by politicians, because you fight your neighbor who you've lived with for a long time. Their kids or your kids have grown up together. Then one day, some politicians say something, you come and burn their house, you kill their children. You can't understand that kind of nonsense.
Are there
and madness.
intermarriages?
Yeah, nowadays there are a lot of intermarriages. I have a neighbor who is married by our neighbor there, you know. So I think that helps in bringing peace, and people not just knowing that we can't just live as this kind of a tribe. It's a global community. We need to intermarry. We need to grow together.
So thanks for that. So you launch I support ban plastics K. It trends nationally, even internationally. This is in 2016. I mean, in 2016, then you do your petition.
Yeah.
Plastic is banned nationally in 2017. So how is that journey? Did you meet the minister or?
We actually never met, interestingly. But I felt in during my campaigns, it's as if there was some kind of a connection, because every time I tweeted, there was some retweets from her or some response. So I felt there was something growing. When she immediately tweeted about her supporting the ban on plastic bags in Kenya, I wrote an opinion article and published it with the Nation media, just as something to measure the government, to see whether they actually did mean it. So my opinion article was actually to see whether that was really a government position. Because if it was not, she should have written back or say, no, we are not banning plastic. This is what I meant. But there was no feedback or no response to that opinion article. And of course, I think she continued tweeting on her personal or even other meetings on ways the government was going to come up with to ban plastic bags.
And I think she faced a lot of pushback from even her own cabinet colleagues.
Actually, the way it happened, there would not have the ban would not have come if the parliament was on session, because MPs are a greedy lot, and they work with polluters or manufacturers, or themselves they are shareholders in companies that own or make plastic. So they waited until when there was a recess, either because of the election period or something like that. Then the minister announced the ban, because the minister has the power to gazette a ban. So that is how it came in. Actually, if she had announced when the parliament was on session, the parliament, the ban would have been impossible. Yeah.
And I remember that time, I think the Ministry of Energy or Petroleum pushed back. I heard about conversations in the cabinet, to the point where I think she almost lost her job. But rather she lost her job, or she almost lost. She was moved to another ministry because, of course, the manufacturers of plastic would go to the minister and the other ministry and try to get concessions, and they are very powerful with a lot of money. And
I know there was a lot going on, because even the Kenya Association of Manufacturers and their lobby groups were really against the ban on plastic bags, because they claimed that we were going to have a lot of job losses. Many industries were going to close down. They actually went to court to argue against the ban, or to have the ban reversed. But the court stood with the minister and said this was a matter of public interest, that a clean environment supported everyone. And you cannot say a few thousand people are going to lose their jobs or will suffer job losses, when the ban was going to support a clean environment, which is a right enshrined under Article 42 of the Constitution, that supported over 45 million Kenyans, now over 50 million Kenyans. So job losses for a few people was a bullet we were ready to bite. And we actually did it.
Were there job losses?
Definitely there were job losses because some companies were closed down. People who were selling plastic bags lost that job. People that were manufacturing plastic bags did lose their jobs. But I feel the alternatives were much better, and people would, of course, jump into. If something is made illegal, you won't stop existing because it is made illegal. You have to find another.
You adapt.
Yeah, you adapt. And again, these products were costly for the environment. Cleaning up the environment from plastic is hard work. Sometimes we may never even be able to remove plastic in the environment because plastic degrades into much smaller plastics called microplastics. Once they become microplastics, there is no way we can go back and clean it. It's not like metal. We can go around with magnets and to attract it. Once plastic break down into smaller microplastics and they are dispersed by water and wind into the air, there is no way we are going to be able to get them out of the environment. That is why it is important to have very strict laws, like the ban on plastic bags. We actually do need to have another ban on, say, plastic bottles, so that people can think about the environment and how ruthless they are polluting it. Yeah.
And when who was paying you then? There's always this conversation that who was like, how did you make ends meet? Were you sponsored? Were you funded? Or are you just doing it out of your own?
It's a good question. Who was paying me? And I think it's always a very misplaced question of who was paying or about payments, because I don't think you have to be paid to do the right thing. Sometimes you just do something not to be paid or because you can be paid, but because there is a need to bring change. You are tired about it. You really want to fight for that change. Doesn't matter whether there is any support, whether monetary or any other kind of support. You just come out and you sacrifice your time, your little resources, use your own money. Sometimes even your own family sees like you're crazy. Your wife may even leave you because you're spending too much time on social media or taking pictures of plastics or talking about non-issues like plastic.
To them, non-issues.
To them. So it is not always about who is paying, because really nobody was paying me. Actually, I was getting broke every day because of using my money. Sometime I'm traveling to Nairobi and I see plastic somewhere and I would stop. I would just ask the matatu to drop me there. Get out with my camera, take pictures. After I'm done, I would just ask, request another matatu and move on. So it's never about being paid. And sometimes I actually did try to apply for grants, because I heard you can actually get supported by organizations, I don't know, NGOs, to do activities. And I think that is something I realized was actually even hard than, it's very hard to get donor funding, especially as an individual. So I gave up. I had written to UN Environment about them supporting me for my campaigns against plastics. They wrote me so many things. We don't have such kind of, and a lot of other stories. And I just decided, let me just do it, because I already started, And of course, when you're being fueled by passion, even when you feel tired or you feel like this is enough, I don't want to do it anymore, you just find yourself doing it again. It becomes part of you. It becomes a career, sort of. It becomes something that it's in you, Yeah.
So there's actually a personal cost sometimes.
Yeah, there is a personal cost. Especially to be an activist is a huge personal cost. If your child tells you that they want to be an activist, oh man, it's not a very good thing to be, because you can't apply for jobs anywhere. Even if you do, and they see you've mentioned you are an activist.
They go on social media and find you.
You can't announce that you're an activist. And again, even if you don't announce and they go on social media, they see you, be like, if we employ this one, he knows too much. He's going to bring down our company. So being an activist itself is very risky. What do you call it? Career of sorts, because it can close many doors for you. You know, the community loves you when you are helping them address some issue, but the community will hate you at the same time if you try to, say, attack their favorite politician or something like that, you know, or try to address an issue that they don't feel like it should be addressed. So you can never be a complete friend of the people. An activist is not a man of the people. You know, you can't be a man of the people and you can be a man and not a man of the people at the same time, because it depends with the relationship. If they're getting the benefits, you are their person. But if you attack them and say, no, this is not the way it's supposed to be done, they'll hate you. They call you names. They say you are even being funded by the LGBTQ community. You are being funded to do this. You know, you are not your own man. You depend on foreign aid. But you're actually not even getting a thing. You're very broke, because if you got some job as a wedding photographer, you get paid 20,000. Use some of that money in activism.
Do the activism
instead of doing other personal, more important things. Yeah.
You know that thing of you're paid by foreign donors, and I always wonder about that statement as an insult to activists, because right now you're talking about debt in the country. Basically, the country has borrowed itself to death.
Yeah.
Mostly foreign debt, but also domestic debt. So what is the problem with being paid by foreign donors to do good things? If
actually, most people would appreciate. People should appreciate somebody getting support from wherever, from foreign, from local. Even the community itself should support activists if they see there is somebody who can help us raise a voice, because that means that community itself has no voice. If there is one of them, a member of that community, who can be an activist and has a voice and does not fear or is courageous, they should support that person, fund that person, you know, buy him phones, a car, anything. Just they do with pastors. You know, they build pastors' houses, they buy them Prados, they make them live good lifestyle. But they don't do that for activists, people who are actually helping them improve their environment, improve their social status, job calling for human rights, and so much more.
Have you ever gotten support from the community in Nakuru?
In a way, I wouldn't want to say I've never gotten support. There are many kinds of support I've gotten, like people agreeing with me that the problem of plastic is big and needs to be addressed. That's support. People working with me, like joining my campaign, even taking the pictures and sharing those pictures, because I would not have done it personally, you know. Like I would not be in Nairobi, I would not be in Costa Rica at the university taking people placards. You know, it's a support that came from people from all over, even from the community. So there is support from all over. But of course, when it comes to resources, financial resources, I don't think many people want to talk about that. Yeah.
How do we get Kenyans supporting their own causes and campaigns financially, actually? Because as we know, when you get funds from foreign donors, it comes with stipulations. It comes with, you know, conditionalities.
Yeah, foreign donor comes with strings attached. You can't say this, you know, you can't. So many things. I think local communities or Kenyans should support their own. If you see somebody from your community has a voice that is helping you address issues, support them. You can give them money. You can give them jobs. If they are photographers like me, you don't have to give me money as an activist or to support activism directly. You can say, I'm hiring you for an event I have on Saturday. That way you'll have supported my activism in a way. But just saying you are being funded or by foreign donors or whatever doesn't help. So communities should support their own. But of course, it's never easy. Even in the Bible, they say prophet is never recognized from home.
In their village.
It's not something that started yesterday.
So how do you survive? Is photography?
Yeah, James Wakibia is an environmental journalist. I mostly highlight plastic pollution. I am an independent photojournalist. That means I look for my own projects. I take those pictures and then I contribute them to my agency, which is based in Hong Kong, called Super Agency, that has a partnership with Getty Images that supplies images across the world. So if you're a newspaper in, say, Canada, you want to talk about plastic pollution, you can go to Getty and buy a photo there that shows plastic pollution, maybe from me, and that way you support me. Or I also do events in Nakuru. I'm an events photographer. You can hire me for that. So that's how I survive. But nowadays, I'm also being invited to talk and maybe I get some honorarium, kidogo, to push me.
In Kenya and around the world?
Yeah, in Kenya and around the world.
So how many countries have you been to?
Without mentioning the ones I've connected with.
Yeah.
I think I've just traveled just 5. I think Zambia. I've been to Zambia. I've been to Indonesia, to France, to Germany, and to United Kingdom. Yeah.
All these because of saying ban plastics.
Yeah, that shows that if you're passionate about something, it can take you places. Yeah.
Na kuna pesa inatoka huko kwa hizo campaigns.
If somebody is ready to pay for your air, for your flights and hotels and booking, of course they should be also ready to pay a bit of an honorarium, some bit of allowance, because there is no way somebody would invite you to go speak at a university, say in Stanford University or whatever university in the world, pay over $3,000, $4,000 in flights and hotels and meals and taxis, and not pay you something. It doesn't make sense. So if you are an organization, an NGO, an international NGO, and you want somebody, an activist, to speak in your conference, pay them a bit of something to support them also. Not just paying the flights and returning all the money to big companies. Yeah.
Do you have support from your family?
Yeah, I do have great support, but it's not always the way you would expect, because most families don't believe so much into, their own. I don't know why. But mine was mostly weird because, when I took my camera, I started taking pictures. I remember my sister asking me, now how is this photography going to help you? I said, this is what I will give me a livelihood. Maybe it's just a camera, but I love it. I have a passion there. But, along the way, my family has come to support me in my campaigns, and just being close to me helps. Yeah.
You've been featured on several international publications, The Economist, among others. How is that? How has that helped your cause?
It feels good to be featured because it means you are doing something interesting or something good. Because somebody writing about you or even calling you for an interview, even Mutemi calling me for an interview, it means you're doing something. We are over 45 million, over 50 million Kenyans. And Mutemi decides to call Wakibia. That means there is something definitely he's seen or he's heard. So being featured by either local media, Nation, Standard, or New York Times, Bloomberg, whatever, means a lot, especially for my work, that I'm not just addressing now a local problem. I am able to escalate it to an international platform. When New York Times interviews me or, talks to me about America's role in Kenya waste problem, I have an opinion. An opinion does matter. Somebody said an opinion is like what? Everybody has theirs. Yeah,
An
everybody
a-hole,
has
yeah.
theirs, but opinion does matter.
Mm.
And it is because of conversation and talking that change comes. And it means that my opinion can be heard by somebody in New York or in Washington, D.C. Somebody can have my opinion in Cambodia or even in Cape Town, South Africa, or even just here in Uganda. It makes me feel what I have been doing is not a waste of time. It is impactful. It is also inspiring others. I don't know how many people have been inspired, but definitely people have heard about what I do and they have maybe embraced or are doing something towards bringing change in the environment. Yeah.
And one of the purposes of this podcast is to highlight people who exemplify the spirit of Utu, and then uzalendo, patriotism, and not necessarily patriotic to the country, but patriotic to the people of Kenya and fellow Africans, and then mentor the next generations. So I hope someone will be inspired by this conversation. Someone could be seated somewhere on any issue, a different issue, and wondering whether they can have an impact on their own. And I think your story kind of mentors those that want to walk that path, although it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. But one important thing is that everybody has a power within themselves. Just need to discover it, and practice it. Like I decided to focus on plastic, and it has become something very close to me because I can see change. I can see it being reported across the world. And that means many more people are able to, to do better maybe, or to address their issues because somebody in Kenya already did start doing something. Yeah.
And how did has the plastic ban in Kenya? I've seen sometimes you go to a kiosk and this small single-use plastic emerge. How is it? How is the enforcement of the plastic ban?
Yeah, it's a tricky situation sometimes when especially you're trying to deal with hustlers. And I try to avoid it myself, trying to point my fingers to the hustlers, to this economy, small or how do I call mostly the poor people in the slums, on the villages, because sometimes I feel they may not have alternatives, But I also feel the problem is created by the rich, because the people who manufacture plastic, and especially very poor quality plastics, are very rich people. The multinationals, the companies like oil producing companies, those are the ones that are producing plastic. And I have no problem with plastic itself per se, but a problem with how it is made. Most of it being made for single use. That's why we have this plastic in our villages. Very thin plastic being used, and it's single use, so it will be thrown away. And I have seen it now being used by Chang'aa traders. And what you have to do to get a Chang'aa is just to know where your dealer is. What is the name for like the people who go around selling say like drugs in street corners. Now that is how Chang'aa is being sold today. You have somebody
in plastic.
Yeah, in plastic bags. So you have somebody putting 5 pouches or 10 in a jacket and hanging it at a street corner. Then they'll stand at some distance. So you just go pay, then you just tell you go pick at that corner. So that is how it is. Unlike in previously where you had to go to a changa den or like a bar, and then it will be served in a glass. You
No, it's
drink
being
it.
sold openly in the streets.
Not so openly because it's hidden in jackets. You have to know the dealer, but it's kind of open because it's in the streets. I worked with a chief in Joro who was able to spot jackets hanged on fences and would tell me, let's go check that jacket. And just putting his hands, he would pluck out like two of them. The seller is just around the corner. So that's a problem we have. I was trying to say, previously we had people going to a bar or to a changaden, like a table like this. They would sit like a group of 10 people, even with conversation, which was very important as they take their changa. And they just drink it and leave the glasses there. The glasses will be washed for new customers. But today, it is not being sold in dens. It is being hawked in the streets. That means somebody will just drink it or just drop the bag there. So we'll have more drinkers of the illicit or the changa, which is mostly with the industrial, alcohol. And then we'll also have a problem with the littering of plastic. So we have two big problems.
And of course, sometimes Mama Mboga will use it.
Yeah, more Mama Mboga will use it. But we are using these bags not because we actually don't
Are they
have
still
so
being
much.
manufactured? Because I'm wondering why
Yeah.
they had gone totally, and then all of a sudden they've surfaced. Or are they being imported?
I think the people who are manufacturing these illegal plastic bags are just here in Kenya. We have been blaming Uganda and Tanzania or our neighbors because of our porous borders. But I think the people who are producing it are local industries, because local industries have been given permission by NEMA to produce plastic. But that plastic that is classified as primary packaging, it has to be branded. It has to go through some, measurements, stuff like that, or quality control. But I think they are producing it illegally. The banned ones, and then they will just distribute it chini ya maji. So those are the people that are still polluting the environment by producing it in large quantities.
What alternatives should Kenyans embrace?
There are many good, very sustainable alternatives, like paper, just normal paper, and Kenyan companies are making paper bags, not plastic paper bags, just normal biodegradable or compostable paper. The word is compostable because anything can biodegrade. So we have companies that are producing good paper bags. They are actually even importing or exporting to other countries. That means we have enough for local consumption, even selling it out of the country. So we have paper, we have sisal, we have cloth bags, we have hemp, have so many alternatives.
But people say some of these alternatives are more expensive than plastic. What do you say about that?
Yeah, they may be seen as expensive, but at the end of the day, if you look at what is more expensive, it is plastic. Plastic can be cheap, once you get it for convenience purposes, it's cheap. But at the end of the day, the cost of cleaning up or removing that plastic from the environment is so much. It's expensive because these plastics are getting into our drains. If they block our drains like here in Nairobi, it will flood. If it floods, some people might die because of floods. Or there will be a problem with the sewer lines. If there are problem with sewer lines, that means there could be diseases, waterborne diseases, cholera, typhoid, malaria, and whatever. So that means the cost of plastic waste is too much, and we cannot even compare it with any other product.
That's like the unseen cost of plastic.
That's the unseen cost of plastic.
What advice would you give a young Kenyan man or woman who's passionate about a cause and they want to pursue it? Some change they want to see within their society or community?
I think my advice to a young Kenyan who feels like they have a voice, they should use that voice. They should not fear to use that voice to bring change. There is power in an individual, and that power you have to, to bring it out by being yourself, expressing your opinion. You don't fear what other people are gonna say about what you say. It is until when you say it that you will know how it is received. So get out there, speak up and share your opinions about what you feel needs to be changed, and you may actually bring change.
Do you consider yourself a leader?
Yeah, I don't know. In a way, I have led campaigns against plastic pollution. So I do regard myself as a leader.
But nobody has elected you.
I think leadership is not about being elected or being in position of power. It is, first of all, identifying yourself as somebody who can or who has a role in the society. And that role is to spark change. If you identify yourself as a person who can influence change, who can speak change, then you're a leader. You do not have to be put in parliament or in the county assembly, or you don't have to be a political leader. Leadership is not about being position of power. Even pastors are leaders. A man in the village, a village elder, is a leader. You could even have leaders in school, a student leader, a prefect is a leader. So I think just the idea of making the word leader or leadership look like political, it's itself, out of place. It is not about politics. It's not about being appointed or being chosen. It's about believing in yourself that there is something in you that you can use to benefit others.
And serve.
That's leadership. You are a leader. Yeah.
So you talk about servant leadership. And I think that's a very important conversation in this country where in our politics, we are seeing all manner of charlatans in cabinet, in the presidency, deputy presidency. What is your opinion of our political leadership?
I feel, first of all, if I was to mention this, like our political leadership, especially beginning with the president, I think the president is beginning to lose big time. I would say the president is a coward because there are some people attacking his leadership and are working under him. I find it very weird and mind-boggling that somebody you have given a job can pick up a microphone, insult Kenyans, almost like vomiting on them using state resources or resources given to him by this taxpayer, by Kenyans. It feels like the president is helpless in such a situation. If it was me, the president, some people would have been fired long ago, because they are very reckless. They are insulting Kenyans. They're just making us look like we this is not our country. So I feel also like our political leadership is, I don't know, it's like dictatorial.
Is it possible that those people actually reflect him? Because if he's not firing them, that means then he's okay with them.
Yeah, maybe they are a gang. They work together, and if he fired them, they would spill some beans. So they are holding out his balls. You can't do this. If you do this, we're gonna show you the door. We are going to say something about if he really is a leader, the president. I think he has much more say about his employees. So it's either he's very coward or he's being held by the balls.
On that note, we just had the Africa Climate Summit the other day, and the president has cast himself as a champion of mitigating climate change. What is your take on that?
First of all, I think for the first time I would appreciate that he was able to organize such a kind of a seminar or a summit. Just coming in power 1 year ago, man, somebody who has some brains, I think during Kenyatta's regime, we never had something like that. And he's also coming out as an African leader on environment matters. But it's also concerning that just recently he lifted the ban on logging. And you understand the important role trees are playing as carbon sinks or capturing carbon. So, saying this and then saying, I think it's double-edged talk. He needs to stand up and, support reduction on carbon emissions by actually planting more trees and not cutting them down. I think we should just allow trees to just grow if they want to fall and die naturally without harvesting them. I think we can exist without so much destruction
of the carbon sinking that everybody is talking about. Trees falling in the forest and growing,
I think,
naturally.
Cutting down one mature tree, that has a capability of storing so much carbon. If you cut it down, that means its capability of storing that carbon stops there. And before a tree just, falls down because it's old, can take a long time. Therefore, I think trees should be left alone. But of course, we do need wood and timber. That means we need to have a very regulated or have a very good framework of ensuring that loggers do not interfere with natural plantations. They can interfere or
they can go and
cut down the artificial or exotic trees that have matured. But of course, we know Kenya and corruption, how it goes. So we have to be very careful not to destroy what we have and at the same time be on top of the world speaking about the impacts we are facing on climate change.
How should the West, pay for the global North? How should they pay for the climate pollution, the global warming, basically?
The West industrialized by polluting, and Africa is there, maybe saying we need to pollute a little bit more to pollute, which is not good, and we can't support it. So the West need to cut down on its side of emissions as well, not just on carbon trading, that we allow countries like America to continue polluting and pay countries like Kenya to bridge the gap or the deficit by either planting trees or using more renewable energy like what do you call it? Like hydro, solar, geothermal. But it should be the role of every country to cut down on their emissions. We are all equal in this planet. Even USA and Kenya and other global North countries, they have to have their good percentage of cutting down carbon. It's not expecting other countries like third world countries to bridge the gap on the emissions or their emissions. Yeah.
And as you come towards the end of this conversation, mostly you and I have lived quite a number of years. We're now starting to live the bonus years.
Not yet.
Our kids,
but I'm 40.
Yeah. Our kids, in some places, 40 is considered old, ancient.
Man, don't say
I'm
that.
50, so I'm 10 years old.
You're scaring me now. I'm beginning to think I'm near to die.
And I'm saying, no, of course not. You want to live as long as 80 or
Yeah, I want
100.
to live like Methuselah.
The future belongs to our kids. How do we get them more involved in a cause like yours on plastic, in protecting the environment, in taking charge of the next, influencing the future around climate change and global warming?
Indeed, the youth is for the young, for our children. You know, when we are long gone, it is the youth that will be living, or our children that will be living. And it is, I think, important that we hold our children. You know, we walk with our children, we hold hands, and we show them the right direction. You know, we teach them good morals so that they are good citizens, you know, so that they can, like the issue of corruption we have today, it is now being almost like institutionalized. We tell them this is wrong, this is unethical, this is immoral. We teach them the right way when they are still young, so that they grow up being all, you know, following the right ways. So I think the best way is just to hold them, their hands, and showing the right way, and of course immersing them in what we do, so that they first of all know what we do and learn it. You know, if I am an environmental activist, my child should first know what I do, you know, should be able to support what I do. That should be their first language.
So the parents have a very big role to play.
Yeah, the parents have a very big role in forging the futures of their children. If you're not there for your children, I think your child may have a very difficult future, because they'll be trying to learn from their schoolmates or from other people from the community or society, while they actually should be learning it from their parents. It is their parents who should be holding their hands and showing them the right way. Yeah.
Have you come across environmental advocacy that involves parents and kids in Kenya?
Yeah. I have come across environmental advocacy that involves children and their parents. Like in Nakuru, there is a friend of mine who has 2 children, and she's actually trying to immerse them in environmentalism by, you know, having them participate in cleanups, planting of trees, you know, understanding about climate change. And it's quite interesting. So this is something that more parents should pick up and involve their children, because it doesn't even have to be like a career. You know, you can just involve your children in matters of the environment for the sake of themselves and their future. Because if we protect our environment will protect us back. But if we abuse it, you know, we are going to suffer a long term because of abusing it. The environment, once polluted, it's very difficult to clean up.
And the thing is, the saddest thing actually for me is that it's the humanity who will suffer. It's not, planet Earth will be just fine without us. You know?
If we abuse our planet, if we pollute our planet, we'll suffer more. We spend so much money going to hospitals for treatment. But if we clean our environment, we live healthy. We are actually be able to contribute more to our economy, because most of the time we shall be working, you know, and not be in hospitals. But if we pollute, we will suffer diseases. We'll have COVID-19 came from a wet market in Wuhan, China. That's an environmental issue. Malaria comes from an environment which has a lot of littered and plastics that keep water or clog water. Stagnant water. Typhoid is because of uchafu, you know, polluted environment. Most diseases come from, even cancers, most of these cancers, I think it's because of environmental pollution. Because we have respiratory diseases, we have diabetes, if you look at most of the diseases affecting us today, you can directly connect them to a dirty environment. So if we cleaned up, if we ensured that our environment is clean, we'll definitely live much healthier lifestyles. And the environment will be holding our hands and saying, this is the right way to do it. But if we don't, the environment be like, we can't hold your hands, you will suffer the consequences. Yeah.
Thank you so much, James, for that wisdom. Thank you for making time for the Utuna Uzalendo podcast. And we hope that we'll amplify this conversation and the conversation will continue. And that you continue mentoring and providing leadership in the field of environmental activism, and possibly eventually get into politics and provide leadership to the nation.
Thank you so much, Muteni, for inviting me in this conversation. It was very important that we talk about the issues of environment, because I don't find most people talking about issues of environment, especially plastic pollution, but also importantly to talk about individual efforts at preserving an environment. What can we do as individuals to ensure that, where we live, our countries, our planet are much cleaner? It's very important, and having that in this conversation is something very important.
Asante sana.
Thank you so much.